This semester, I've had the pleasure of working with an amazing team to develop a strategy for a $50 million fund who's looking to make investments in companies to really revolutionize the wash infrastructure across Africa. The team extends further than the 4 students you're going to see on the stage momentarily. So first, I'd like to thank our experts at the Water Center, Dr. Sabatini and Dr. Chamberlain, for all your help this semester. The CCEW staff, specifically Dylan and Carol, thank you so much for being a thought leader and a sounding board for our team. And finally, our mentor, Joey Wignaraja. In addition to being a vice president of a private equity fund in Tulsa, he has been responsive all the time on weekends and on weekdays to our emails and phone calls, and we really could not have done this without you. As far as it goes for the interns on this team, they're truly phenomenal. I had no idea I'd be making new friends and working with individuals who were student athletes, presidents of student organizations, a National Merit Scholar, and the Outstanding Sophomore. In addition to being extremely intelligent and accomplished, they have a passion that really will blow you away. I saw this first after our first meeting with our inventor, Oliver Uja. On our Skype meeting, we were Skyping him from Burkina Faso in Africa, and he said, "You guys come over whenever you want, meet with us, we'll pick you up from the airport, you head on over to Africa as soon as you can." And I, thinking in my head, this could never happen, it's so expensive, whatever, brushed it off my shoulders. I show up at our next team meeting, and the CCW interns are looking at me. "So are we really going to do this? Are we going to go to Africa this summer? How's this going to happen?" And although our schedules wouldn't allow that to happen, this is the kind of passion and drive that these students have. And it's this kind of drive and passion that have led them to perform amazing analysis, work, and to finally present a final recommendation to WSA this evening. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce David, Devin, Lucy, and Jeff, Team Ripple.
Daniel Tyru is one of Africa's brightest social entrepreneurs. Tyru is the creator of a Kenya-based project for the domestic waste biogas system. This project utilizes any decomposable material and converts it into energy for household use. Potentially, this project could save millions of lives across Africa. Unfortunately, if Tyru is unable to obtain the proper funding needed to finance the project, he'll be unable to have the impact he wishes to have. However, there is hope. Fortunately, Water and Sanitation for Africa, or the WSA, has recently acquired a $50 million fund. This $50 million fund is dedicated solely to investing in WASH companies. WASH simply means water, sanitation, and hygiene, or in the case of WSA, it also means housing. Daniel Tyru represents a perfect early-stage applicant for the fund. Tyru wishes to scale his project into a company, and he needs the funding to do so. Currently, there are no funds who solely invest in WASH. This is where WSA will be able to maximize their social impact, as they empower entrepreneurs such as Daniel Tyru and ultimately revolutionize the African economy. This is new territory for WSA, so Team Ripple has been working with them on how to manage their new fund. Over the course of this semester, we have interviewed 87 investment funds, financial experts, and companies such as Daniel Tyru's. We've not only created an investment strategy that allows for the fund to be sustainable, but impact 1.2 million people in just 7 years as well. We've also initiated our own pilot program, and this pilot program has attracted 3 potential investments for funding. This will allow WSA to identify the types of investments they need to make, as well as create a ripple effect throughout the entire African economy. Hello, my name is David Driscoll. I'm a senior economics major from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
I'm a junior economics and international business major from Somerset, Wisconsin.
Hello, my name is Lucy Mahaffey, and I'm a sophomore studying international studies and anthropology, and I'm from Norman, Oklahoma.
Hello, I'm Jeff Bissinger. I'm a junior from Plano, Texas, studying finance and entrepreneurship.
Our team leader is Hannah Kellogg. Our team inventor is Oliver Uja, Director of Research and Marketing for the WSA. Our team mentor is Joey Wignaraja, Vice President of Argonaut Investments. So let's take a moment and talk a little bit more about Water and Sanitation for Africa, or the WSA. WSA is a Pan-African intergovernmental organization, which simply means that they operate across all of Africa. They have 36 member countries, and they have offices located in 20 of these countries, with their headquarters in Burkina Faso. They have over 25 years of experience implementing WASH projects, and their projects have directly benefited 22 million people. Let's take another moment and talk about what constitutes a WASH project. In terms of water, this could be the building of a well in a village, or the creation of an entire water infrastructure or pipeline system. In terms of sanitation and housing, this could be the construction of a latrine or simply the building of homes. Now, as stated earlier, WSA has acquired their $50 million fund dedicated to investing in those companies who wish to better wash infrastructure across Africa. There are three main types of investments or components to this fund. The first type of investment is in early stage companies. These are companies that are 2 to 3 years of age and younger. The second type of investment is in Sharia compliant companies. These are companies which strictly adhere to the tenets of the Islamic faith. And finally, the third type of investment is in established companies. These are companies that are 5 years of age and older. Now, as with any fund, there are certain issues that arise when it comes to fund implementation. WSA needs to be able to identify ideal investments. What does this ideal company look like, and where is it located, are two questions WSA will need to be able to answer in order to successfully implement the fund. A second issue with fund implementation is being able to manage investments. How can WSA most efficiently and responsibly manage the companies that they're investing in? And finally, a third issue when implementing the fund is being able to ensure social impact while remaining financially viable. Team Ripple from CCEW has come up with solutions to each of these issues with the fund. We've ultimately created an investment pipeline for the fund. And in this investment pipeline, we have pinpointed a target market. This target market is based on criteria such as GDP, corruption, and the overall environment for business. And as said earlier, we've also begun our pilot application. This pilot application will allow WSA to attract the optimal companies for investment. We've also devised an organizational structure for the fund. We're recommending that WSA makes equity investments. And in our organizational structure, we've determined that WSA has the adequate staff to responsibly monitor these equity investments. This means that WSA does not have to hire any additional employees, and therefore they don't have to take on those new costs. And finally, we've created a financial model for the fund. Not only does this financial model provide a plan for sustainability for WSA, but also gives them an investment timeline over the course of the fund. So now I've discussed the issues that are inherent with fund implementation, the solutions that Team Ripple has come up with for these issues. I'll allow Devin to expound more upon our investment pipeline as well as the overall dynamics of the fund. Devin?
Thank you, David. We found that WSA needs to market their fund to 16 different countries and ultimately make 15 investments. Let us show you how we got to these numbers. WSA has this $50 million fund, but after they take out all the costs, they will only have $31.2 million to directly invest in companies. We benchmarked 30 other funds, and we found that WSA should be making an average of $2 million per investment as a minority shareholder. Now, this means that WSA can invest in 15 different companies. Now, let's apply that to the market. Across the entire wash sector in Africa, there are around 46,000 companies. WSA's $2 million investments will limit it to around 17,000. That's still a huge number. So we actually broke it down further and found where WSA should be looking for these companies. We evaluated countries based on 4 different metrics and WSA's current reach and current experience. And we found that in the top 16, WSA had the connections and has the ideal conditions to make successful investments in companies. Within these 16 countries, there are 5,600 companies. But how is WSA actually going to choose the best investments from this target market? We actually created an application process that WSA can use, and we tested this process with other funds and found that they tested on 4 basic criteria seen here. So we included that in our application. But to make sure that our application was useful to WSA, we went one step further and actually ran a pilot of this application with actual wash companies in Africa. We sent out the application to 30 different companies, and from that alone, we were able to get 3 companies to apply. One of these companies is actually within WSA's investment range and could even be a possible investment for WSA in the future. That's exciting. But in addition to this, we were able to refine our application and see what needed work. Now, in addition to an application, we need to include a memo. This memo is going to give the company's objectives and mission in their own words. And these 2 components will allow WSA to choose those applicants with both a strong business foundation and the goals and missions that align with WSA's. But how is WSA going to get these people even interested in applying for the fund? We found that in contrast to traditional marketing, we needed to create a pipeline of possible investments for WSA because it's all about having a strong network. To do that, over the last semester, we have talked to 87 different companies, financial institutions, and WASH experts. And from this alone, there are 4 different funds, a company, and an investment network, all interested in what WSA is doing with this fund. Now, WSA can take this network and expand it even further in the coming months. They can attend WASH conferences tailored to their target market and actually have direct contact with those companies as well as financial institutions and WASH experts working with those companies. Now, this will be how WSA actually generates that interest for the fund and draws in those applications. So once they have marketed their fund and drawn in those applications, chosen those best 15 investments, they're going to have a strong monitoring process in place to actually make sure that those investments are successful. So next up is Lucy to talk about the organizational structure that WSA will need to ensure that their investments are successful.
Thank you, Devin. WSA has the capacity to manage 15 $2 million investments. In fact, they have 3 key advantages that will enable them to be both a successful and active minority shareholder. First, WSA is ideally located. As David said, they have 36 member countries, and in these countries, they have 20 country offices. The target market that Devin outlined of 16 countries has 9 out of 7 of these target market countries have WSA offices in them. The remaining, which means that they're fully developed offices with 4 staff members. The remaining 7 still have WSA's presence, but instead of a fully developed office, they have 1 country representative there. Furthermore, these staff members have 25 years of technical expertise. After communicating with all 20 offices in both French and English, we found that they have a range of backgrounds, ranging from sociology to civil engineering. Currently, they are using this expertise on nonprofit projects. However, we recommend that they apply this knowledge to investments so that they can help entrepreneurs such as Daniel Tyru with the specifics of his waste biogas system. Furthermore, WSA has adequate infrastructure to prioritize these investments. In addition to the 4 staff members that they have in each country office, they have 5 support staff members, and they can bring in consultants as needed because of their existing network. This means that WSA will have enough time to prioritize this fund over the next decade, and they intend to after our conversations with our mentor. After talking to 15 funds, we found that the maximum time needed per investment per week was 10 hours. WSA can give each investment 15 hours per investment per week. We are heavily recommending that the management team trains the country representatives so that they can offer organizational support, marketing support, and cost structure support to entrepreneurs such as Daniel Tyru. In this way, they can capitalize on their key advantages and make the most of their investments. And now Jeff will talk more about how these investments can ensure both financial and social returns.
Thank you, Lucy. Our team has identified that financial returns are dependent on the types of companies WSA will be investing in, as well as the costs associated with these investments. Currently, we know WSA has a $50 million investment fund, and our team broke this fund into 3 segments. $31.2 million will be initially invested with companies. $10 million will be set aside for follow-on investments within these companies, and the remaining $8.8 million will be set aside for operating costs behind the fund. Let's take a closer look at what these initial investments will look like for WSA. As David mentioned earlier, there are 3 types of companies WSA can invest in: early-stage companies, Sharia companies, and established companies. When looking at the expected returns for these investments, we can see that early-stage companies have the highest expected return of approximately 25%. Sharia companies have an expected return of approximately 18%, and established companies have the lowest expected return of approximately 6% over the life of the fund. We're we're heavily suggesting to WSA to consider follow-on investments with early-stage companies. In particular, 5 follow-on investments with these early-stage companies will be necessary. By making these follow-on investments with these companies, they will be able to capitalize on the growth opportunities they're providing them. And also, if WSA makes these investments early on, they will be able to watch these investments grow for approximately 5 years. Our team is suggesting to WSA that in the need that WSA would like to run this fund separate from their everyday operations, they can. However, the operating costs might be quite extensive. WSA will be having to pay salaries to the managing directors of their investments, having to pay for the travel costs of actually going to the countries where these companies are located. And they'll also have to pay the transaction costs behind getting these investments solidified. So as you can see, there are quite a few financial considerations to take into account with each investment WSA makes. And through our team's extensive research, as well as interviews with over 90 different individuals as well as organizations, we have identified that WSA will need to focus on early stage and established companies in order to make this fund sustainable as well as impact over 1.2 million people. WSA's optimal mix of investments will include 8 early stage companies, 6 established companies, and the remaining investment will be in a Sharia compliant company. This will have an inherent risk or failure rate of approximately 10.67%. Or to put this simply, WSA should expect approximately 2 of their early stage investments to fail. Now, I mentioned earlier the importance of follow-on investments with WSA. And even with these 2 early stage companies failing in the model, this still leaves room for at least 5 of those follow-on investments to be made with those early stage companies. However, the most critical portion of this portfolio is the fact that it will actually provide WSA with a financial return of $196,000 on top of their $50 million investment. This is essentially saying that WSA will be breaking even. However, this solidifies their goal of wanting to impact as many people as they possibly can across Africa. In fact, WSA will be able to impact over 1.2 million people through their investments in this mix of companies. Over the next few months, WSA will begin marketing their application. In June, they will attend the WEFTech conference, which is a conference in Chicago for water companies in order for them to see what's innovative and new in the water industry. And here, this is where WSA can begin to identify where investment opportunities can be. And once investment opportunities have been presented to WSA, they will begin investing in these companies. And in tandem with these investments, they will be monitoring these investments. They will be attending meetings. They will be traveling to where these companies are actually located. And ultimately, they'll be training their staff in these countries so they can adequately monitor these investments. After this 5 to 7 year period of monitoring these investments, they will begin realizing their returns and ultimately decide if they would like to reinvest their capital back in different wash infrastructure companies so they can impact even more people. So even though WSA is having a financial return of $196,000, they're doing so much more than that. They're going to be bringing over 8,300 jobs to countries all within Africa. And most importantly, through WSA's investments in water, sanitation, hygiene companies, as well as improved housing facilities, they will be directly impacting over 1.2 million people. Through WSA's implementation of this fund, they will truly cause a ripple effect across the entire continent of Africa and change the way investments in wash companies will be happening in the future. Thank you, and we are now open for questions. Your question is, why would we choose to establish in fewer Sharia companies? There's a lot of financial considerations to take into account with each investment, and the transaction cost behind actually investing in a Sharia company is quite a bit higher than investing in an established company. So when it comes down to the monitoring and the actually traveling to these countries, it comes out to be quite a bit more, and it takes away from the returns.
So I believe your question was, as a minority shareholder, will WSA's goals be taken into consideration with other majority shareholders, or how they will ensure their goals? After speaking with 15 different funds that were similar but not the same as WSA, we found they preferred to be minority shareholders for 3 reasons: because of lower costs, lower risk, and because of the involvement that they could still have on board seats. And they preferred to be minority shareholders, and values were not an issue. With the network that we're already creating with them, their goals do align. And so we're giving them a good foundation in that regard. Dr. Chamberlain?
The question was, did we evaluate business costs when we were looking at the countries? And the short answer is yes. We didn't evaluate them directly, however. The way we evaluated those countries were based on 4 different criteria. One was corruption, the ability of citizens to actually pay for wash services. We looked at entrepreneurial conditions, and we looked at whether or not these countries actually had a need. So those 2 that actually would be business conditions together are the corruption and the ability of citizens to pay. One more time. Did we look at liens? Liens or mortgages?
We looked into specifically the different legal costs it would take for each different portfolio, and we looked into the time consideration. We did not, however, look at the specific laws in every single country in Africa. The criteria we used were more high level, like Devin stated. So we're leaving it up to WSA's country representatives because they have that type of expertise and they'd be able to find that. There are 3 reasons, actually. After all of our interviews, we found that equity was much preferred for 3 reasons. First, it could ensure WSA the greatest possible growth opportunity. Second, it ensured the companies the greatest possible growth opportunity. And third, it actually enabled WSA to have the type of involvement they wanted in these companies. So it aligned with their goals of having the board seat and being able to really interact and help entrepreneurs like Daniel.
Let me break your question down. So it's what is WSA doing between investing and realizing the returns, and then once they realize those returns into the future? Okay, so when WSA is going to be investing for 3 years and then be holding those investments for 5 to 7 years, and then ultimately they will be realizing those returns. So for 5 to 7 years, they will be monitoring these investments and making sure that they're impacting the number of people that they're expecting them to do. And then once that monitoring period's over and when they realize their returns, they can ultimately decide if their investors would like to reinvest that capital back in different wash companies in order to make an even larger impact.